All right, y'all, here we go again.
Can you just add us up to the case documenting that there was no autopsy? And
287, I'll be clear to the hospital.
I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage in the emergency room bay.
To watch people use a dispatch communication between a dispatch and an officer and try to leverage that to make it say something that it doesn't necessarily say is where B. Tatum got to step in at.
There was a full police escort out front, a black, discreet minivan in the middle. That's a funeral home removal van. And yes, they often look like everyday minivans. And right behind it is the medical examiner's car, right there. That detail is crucial. In cases of homicide, the body does not go straight to the funeral home. It goes first to the medical examiner for a full autopsy.
If you think about buying something for Charlie, only go to Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's site, if they got one for him, Officer Tatum. And if you do go somewhere else to buy anything Charlie Kirk related, make sure that they're giving back to Charlie's family or they're giving to Turning Point USA. Do not go and buy stuff. I don't care how convenient it may be. Don't go and buy anything supporting Charlie with his name and stuff on it if it ain't going to Turning Point USA or his family. Everything that we do with Charlie on it, 100% of profits are going directly to his wife. And I'm going to write her a check and she can tell me where she wants the check to go. I don't care. It's up to her. But if you want to get some of the merch, right now it's in pre-order. We're literally down there printing it right now. And if you want some of it, get it now. We have allowed it to go all out, but we're going to have to make some cutoffs here and sell them out. So go and get it now. Go and buy it. Great merch, great quality, and it's going to the Kirk family. All right, y'all, here we go again. More conspiracy theories. And this is one that hits home to me because obviously I was in law enforcement, and to watch people use a dispatch communication between a dispatch and an officer and try to leverage that to make it say something that it doesn't necessarily say is where B. Tatum got to step in at. And I'll say this, it's okay to question, but use common sense and logic when you guys are talking about incidents that occur. I'm hearing now that people are saying that the shooter was never even at the scene, that he was never at the university, not one time, despite the fact that they got video footage of him entering into the stairwell, and this video footage now that is surfaced of him being at a Dunkin' Donuts 15 minutes away from the scene, when he lived 2 or 3 hours from the scene. There's no reason for him to even be near the campus if he hadn't have some type of involvement in this. I highly doubt that a kid that lived 200 miles from a place will drive to the location just to go to Dunkin' Donuts at the same time that his face is caught on a camera, at the same time where there's a shooting that occurred, at the same time where they got him jumping off the building with a gun in his hand, at the same time they got him running behind houses on ring camera, and him running through the community in the same place where they found a gun that belongs to his grandfather. But let's get to this 911, this dispatch communication between law enforcement officers. And I'll preface it with this. This does sound like an authentic communication with dispatch and law enforcement, because people can fake stuff. It can be AI, but I listened to it like 10, 15 times. And the way I think or believe that it's authentic is because the type of communication with the dispatch and the officers talking over each other, it sounds exactly like what would happen in real law enforcement environments where people are trying to get on the radio and communicate something very differently at the same time. So it makes it seem incredibly authentic. So I think that this is a real authentic 911 dispatch, or like a dispatch communication. But after you listen to it, I'm going to tell you why this is not an indication that Charlie never got an autopsy. Roll the clip.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
oh, okay. Can you just do a field clip documenting that?
I'm sorry, 10-9?
Can you just add us up to the case documenting that there was no autopsy? And
287, I'll be clear to the hospital.
I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage in the emergency room bay.
Jesse just told me that he just got off the phone and Charlie's wife is coming to signature and they're bringing a car over here for a treatment.
Charlie's wife is coming to land at signature, you said?
Sir, and Jesse's going to go to Dunkin right now and pick up a car for her.
Okay, I'm a little confused because that's what Corey just said. They said they're landing at Dunkin, so I don't know where they're landing, but we will just kind of play it by ear, I guess, best that we can.
All right, now that you've heard the clip, let me put it in perspective as a former law enforcement officer. I probably have been a part of about 70 of these cases where people have been brought to the morgue after getting killed. There is no scenario on planet Earth, and every police officer in the comment section and everybody that works at the hospital would probably second what I'm saying. If a person is murdered, they get an autopsy. If a person is involved in a death outside of natural causes of a person being on hospice, they are going to get an autopsy. They're not going to allow, like for instance, let me tell you why that this would happen. And then I'm going to address the actual verbiage. Because every time a person kills another person, and their family member, they would just go and make sure they never get an autopsy so they can't find out how the person died. So therefore, every person that killed another person, especially if you're killing a family member, you will make sure they never get an autopsy so you can cover it up.
When Charlie Kirk's body left the hospital, it didn't happen quietly. There was a full police escort out front, a black, discreet minivan in the middle. That's a funeral home removal van. And yes, they often look like everyday minivans. And right behind it is the medical examiner's car, right there. That detail is crucial. In cases of homicide, the body does not go straight to the funeral home. It goes first to the medical examiner for a full autopsy. And yes, you can literally see that here. The medical examiner following behind directly confirms it. That and this is my job, so I know. And that autopsy isn't optional. In an open homicide investigation, the medical examiner documents everything: bullet trajectory, tissue damage, and toxicology. This isn't just about confirming the cause of death. It's about building evidence for investigators. After the procedure, his remains would have been released to a funeral home. And while I can't say with absolute certainty what happened behind closed doors, in my professional opinion, embalming almost certainly took place. Why? Because embalming preserves and restores the body, and after a traumatic death, it is the only way a family can have one more goodbye that feels possible.
The truth of the matter is, and this is every single situation I've ever been in the history of my career, every single person that was killed got an autopsy. The only people that didn't get an autopsy were people who were on hospice and it was expected that they would die, and they went directly to the funeral home. They didn't go to the hospital. But if you go to the hospital and you die at the hospital, for multiple reasons, they have to do an autopsy. It could be medical. You could have died from medical malpractice. You could have died from the gunshot wound severing your spine, or the gunshot wound could make you bleed out. They have to determine your cause of death thoroughly through an autopsy. And especially if you were assassinated, because they're going to need the evidence and information to proceed in court. They have to disclose that this person has died from this cause. They can't guess and assume. Therefore, the suspect, there's no evidence that the suspect had any involvement in his death. They got to do an autopsy. They have to do forensic evidence of the bullet that was found. They have to do that in comparison to the gun. And was it fired from that weapon? All of this stuff is a part of the investigation that is routine for the last probably 100 years. So let's talk about what was actually said in the call. You have the officer saying that Charlie did not go for an autopsy. Now, if you listen to the call, you'll hear Charlie didn't go for an autopsy. The dispatcher saying, make sure you document that, because an officer needs to document what his involvement was. So there's no misconception, there's no confusion. They can't say that the officer was there during the autopsy. You can say the officer was there, this is what happened, the death certificate was signed. Now, one of the reasons why Charlie wouldn't immediately go to an autopsy was because Erica had not been able to come and see him. And Erica hadn't been able to be there to sign off on him as the next of kin. So they won't rush him to an autopsy before Erica can go there and identify him and certify him as next of kin.
On the afternoon of September 10th, I arrived at a Utah hospital to do the unthinkable, to look directly at my husband's murdered body. I saw the wound that ended his life. I felt everything you would expect to feel. I felt shock. I felt horror and a level of heartache that I didn't even know existed. But there was something else too. Even in death, I could see the man that I love. I saw the one single gray hair on the side of his head, which I never told him about. Now he knows. Sorry, baby, I'm telling you now, but never told him. Didn't want to. I also saw this. I also saw on his lips the faintest smile. And that told me something important. It revealed to me a great mercy from God in this tragedy. When I saw that, it told me Charlie didn't suffer. Even the doctor told me. It was something so instant that even if Charlie had been shot in the operating room itself, nothing could have been done. There was no pain, there was no fear, no agony. One moment Charlie was doing what he loved, arguing and debating on campus, fighting for the gospel and truth in front of a big crowd. And then he blinked. He blinked and saw his Savior in paradise.
And probably shortly after Erica left, they conducted an autopsy. Or they could have had him do an autopsy at a separate location or whatever the case may be. Whatever the case may be, he got an autopsy. But if you ever been a part of an autopsy, ever seen an autopsy, there's no way in the world that the wife will go and identify him during an autopsy. Because in autopsies, they have to determine how you died. Many times they will drill a hole or drill your scalp off, pull your scalp, pull your brain out. They will do surgery and open up your entire chest cavity, peel it open like this. They got to check your organs and do all this other stuff to investigate what actually caused you to die. That is something that a spouse should never be exposed to, and they will never allow a spouse to be exposed to that. Not that I've ever heard of. So it would make sense if you listen to the call based on my training experience and my law enforcement experience and every cop that I know, that an officer was pretty much saying that they did not perform an autopsy while I'm there, so I'm leaving the scene. Other officers are coordinating Erica getting into the scene to see Charlie before he goes into an autopsy. Now, am I 100% accurate about this? I'm 99.999% accurate. What I will say is that if somehow Charlie did not get an autopsy, this will be the first time in the history of the world that a person who was assassinated didn't even get an autopsy. This will be the first situation in the world that have ever happened. And you will get me to come back on here and I will make a video explaining how bizarre it would be and that I would lose faith in this investigation if somehow, which would be unprecedented, never heard of, and the first time in American history that somebody gets murdered and assassinated and they do not do an autopsy. This is actively being investigated. Let me add this part now. Let me tell you what the ramifications is. If they don't do an autopsy, then how do they know how he was shot, what angle he was shot? How would they know any of those things? According to Andrew, that he spoke to somebody at the hospital that said they found a bullet lodged just beneath the skin.
Also, Kelly, we're hearing Charlie Kirk's organization is revealing new details surrounding his death. What are they saying about this?
Yeah, I wanted to get to that. There was a new post out from the executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show, TPUSA spokesperson Andrew Colvett, and he wanted to post this. He said he spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital, and they were talking about the exit wound. So Colvett was saying that there was no exit wound. We are still waiting to confirm this with the hospital, but he said he spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie. He said the bullet absolutely should have gone through, but it didn't go through. Charlie's body stopped it. He said, quote, "It was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed." They did find the bullet just beneath the skin, he says, and even in death, he finishes, that Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him.
They would not know that unless they conducted an autopsy. So you would have to say that Andrew made it up, or after Erica saw him, they took him for autopsy. Then they relayed back the information that the bullet was found slightly under the skin. Now, if you don't do an autopsy, then when you go to court, the killer can say, "I didn't shoot him." Therefore, the gun that was used will not match the bullet that they found in his body. And therefore, the forensics will be off, and they will have no charges against him other than circumstantial evidence, which will be very difficult to prove if they didn't do an autopsy. They would literally have to throw the case out if they didn't do an autopsy and determine the cause of death and determine what round he got shot with. So I'm just saying this to say, if somehow they didn't do an autopsy, I will come on here and I will be an advocate to believe that this is a cover-up. But until then, it does not seem that this is the case. So just take your time, ask a police officer to verify these things. And anyway, I just had to throw that out there real quick. I'll see y'all in the next one, man. I'm out.